Hey YouTube, long time no see. I got fat. I don't give a shit. Anyway, Bruce from Bruce Lombardo 75. With me is my friend Michael.
Howdy.
He's one of my regular gamers in my home game.
It's torturous.
Poor bastard. He has no idea. Anyway, for those of you that are familiar with my channel, this is what we typically play.
And that's pretty much the condition of our characters as well.
Woo, poor dog.
Yeah, time to get new sheets, time to get new books.
He thought it was a treat. So, with that being, go ahead, Liz. I know you want to say something off camera. Our producer would like to say something, I'm sure. She buries her head.
Producer and wife, so...
His wife, not mine.
So, we had a couple of books you actually want to talk about today, right?
Yeah, on the Pathfinder forums and on Facebook, which turning into a sewer every day, more and more. But still, it's a good resource for connecting and talking to people about various ideas. We've been in a game. You've been in my campaign since I moved here in January.
About 6 months now.
Yeah, it's almost mid-June.
And you've only killed one character. It was mine, but still.
We're going to talk a lot about everything that's been going on. The videos I did in the day, they were always done with no edit. We had no intention of ever editing or with...
I've seen a few of them. They're really good.
Yeah, but everything is basically an improv and just us kind of sitting around the table. And there's table talk, of course, but we don't... We never cut our tape because, one, it was my channel, and I always felt that if you had something like that going on, you want to retain the magic of the entire social thing going on because the game is based around us all having a good time.
Right. At the same time, though, an hour-long video of maybe 20 minutes of action could be a little tedious for some.
So could 3 hours of video of us trying to take out Karzog.
That, I couldn't agree with you more. However,
I gotta say, like, I'll allow you to talk here in just a second. I appreciate a good campaign, and I really like a good synergy between players and friends. Mm-hmm. And I believe that's really super important, and that's something that my old crew in Illinois, while we all had our different personalities, we all seemed to get along really well.
Something that does sometimes happen at our table, other times it doesn't. We're all human.
There's always going to be a level of animosity between two individuals, no matter who they are and how they're connected.
Unless one's a paladin, in which case it's one-sided.
Oh shit.
This is very true. We have a few different personalities at our table as well, but they're not here to speak for themselves, of course.
Not really. We don't have to actually mention them by name. If you want to go with their character name, that's fine.
That's fine too.
The main thing is that, like, I wanted to have you come over today because this is their test, and this is going to see how things work. We'll conclude this video, and then I'll edit. Or not edit, but just like put on like a title page, or maybe not even a title page, just edit and put some words up at the start of the video. Here we are. Blah.
Right.
Bruce's video from his channel.
Right.
And put it on the Facebook, the Pathfinder pages, the Paizo forums, all that.
Only if I get to name it.
What would you name it?
Probably something to do about the game, but that's just me.
That would be fine. Because we are basically going to be talking about our game, and this video is going to mainly just be the 2.5 or the three of us discussing. She's not on camera. Is she a real person?
She is. Here she comes.
Females exist.
Always have Always have a female at the table. simply because they add a new perspective to things. Try to have 2, that way the first one doesn't get bored.
I prefer having 2 females in a room. They don't both have to be in the game, but at least she won't feel like it's a sausage fest. Unless you run strategically small games where you have 1 referee and 3 players. You could have a good balance with 3 good players, and you could have everybody have a good time and a little bit more focused game with that, even though I prefer 5 to 6 players.
I agree. I typically run, when I am game mastering myself, typically around 3 to 4 players, because I typically find having more than that, especially, now that everyone's just adults and we're not in high school anymore.
It's hard.
How long has that been for you? Probably since I've been alive.
You're in your mid-20s.
Yes.
When I started playing, you were not yet a thought.
Well, there you go. I like smaller games simply because it's almost unfeasible for a week-by-week basis.
Yeah.
To get, 5, 6, 7, 8 people at the table at once, willing to dedicate hours upon hours of time. But then again, your style of play is every 2 weeks, pretty much a day of gaming.
I prefer that. I used to run every Monday night for my campaign in Illinois, and I would record that. And that became a staple for some people, I found out. It was not really seen by a lot, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. We can accept that. But it was at the start of the Pathfinder arc in the timeline. It was around 2009, 2010. And those videos were good for some people because, like a lot of videos go on YouTube, people found these videos and other gamers, and they learned how to play the game because they were stuck in 3.0 or second ed or first, and they needed to learn how the mechanic worked. And we were happy to be guinea pigs. We had the time for it. And go ahead.
Others, like myself, were introduced to it after learning Pathfinder. And Pathfinder has so many... not Pathfinder, that's their system, but Paizo has so many adventure paths out right now that it's a new one every 6 months, and it's a lot to take in, especially when you start gaming. You have no idea what people are mentioning when they say Rise of the Rune Lords or Shattered Star. That I am a diehard Pathfinder fan. I've never played Rise of the Rune Lords ever, and that's blasphemy for some to hear that.
That's fine.
But I used your videos to actually experience it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we didn't start recording those videos till we were knee deep in book 4, which is a sad shame because book 3.
I will admit that I dug through your playlist area to try to find Hook Mountain Massacre, since that's all you talk about whenever you talk about a good, memorable horror style The Hills Have Eyes game.
For those of you that need to get a hold of the hardcover, this is the original print from back in 2009. No, 2007, my bad. Wow. This here is the third part of the adventure series performed or written by Nicholas Logue. He did a wonderful homage to Deliverance, The Hills Have Eyes, and he framed it within a very nice 7th to 9th level adventure for 3-5 players, and that translated really well for Pathfinder. The time we were doing the beta test, we enjoyed it so much. We had a blast, and I've always talked to people about, have you played the Hook Mountain Massacre? Because when people talk about the APs, invariably when you talk about Pathfinder, somebody in the crew is going to mention Rise of the Rune Lords. Either
every game session.
Yeah, because it is the iconic evil wizard going to take over the world. I'm going to conquer this land, or I'm going to return from the dead and take over the world. It is the iconic tail. And there are 6 parts of that path. When you take them individually, they're a real neat cohesive set of parts. When you actually go into the minutia of it, they're wonderfully written. And then you get to book 6, to the very end of it. What?
Oh, most Paizo adventure paths by book 6 kind of lose their steam.
This one here really didn't.
It didn't.
No, Rise of the Rune Lords doesn't really lose its steam. Curse of the Crimson Throne doesn't lose its steam, and Legacy of Fire. And you're going to note that those are the
All three I haven't played.
those are 3 of the 4 first sets of the Paizo adventure paths that I've played, and I never finished Legacy of Fire. We derailed at book 5 by going into. Yeah, well, no, we derailed intentionally because book 5 is set within the City of Brass. And I have a box set for the City of Brass from Necromancer Games, one of my favorite companies, and thank God they came back as Frog God Games. For those of you that know about Frog God Games and Necromancer Games, if you've experienced this, you have had a play session to where you feel your efforts as a gamer or your efforts at the table and enjoying yourself with 6 strangers or friends, combination of both.
And dogs.
The dog. You've had a worthwhile, memorable experience. And at the end of it, at the end of a character arc, you have slammed your hand and somebody else giving a high five. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Almost at the end of every game session that we've been playing now.
And Rise of the Rune Lords, I mean, it kind of had the same feeling back in the day because we were still testing it out. 3.5 had less powerful characters than Pathfinder.
Right.
It was a very well-crafted system, and going into Pathfinder, there was just a few tweaks they did. It made it really valid to do it the Pathfinder way, so we did it.
Yeah.
Everybody talks of Rise of the Rune Lords. I'm going to wrap that. I don't mind talking about that, but
Wrap it up.
no. The other 2 paths I mentioned were the Curse of the Crimson Throne
And Legacy of Fire.
Legacy of Fire. Those 2 are really well done. If you have the chance to ever play those, don't hesitate. If your DM says, I've got months on end where we can devote to this campaign, yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for it.
However,
There is there are some adventure paths that Paizo does that sometimes miss the mark. And you kind of hit it. Like around book 5, book 6, it feels like they just lose steam.
right. And not that the adventure paths themselves are terribly made. It's just that a lot of Paizo's work is based off of themes. They do that because people are like, oh, let's play the pirate adventure. Let's get Skulls and Shackles.
Mm-hmm.
Let's play the horror campaign.
Carrying
Crown. Or let's be Indiana Jones and we'll
Serpent
get
Skull.
Serpent Skull or Mummy's Mask. And they're great for giving this sense of adventure and hitting the nail on the head. Books 1, 2, even 3.
Yeah.
And then there's just not enough either source material or the writers change. Or
They always change. They always change every volume. You get a different set of a different perspective because a new author takes over for that 20,000 words.
Right, but typically they at least try to incorporate the previous writer's style, at least leading into it.
All agree.
Some of them kind of don't, and it's very jarring.
The worst I dealt with, and I'm going to be off camera for a second while I search for a bottle opener. The worst in that was I read through the Wrath of the Righteous.
Oh, such promise.
Wrath of the Righteous is a great theme. Let's go find out how we can figure out how can we fix the problem at the Whirlwind, which is a giant cancerous pit.
Let's be paladins.
Yeah. Bohemia. Anyway.
Potion of Cure Light Wounds.
So, I read through that, and it also incorporated the mythic adventures, the mythic rule set. I didn't like it. I don't like the Mythic at all. There's a company called Legendary Games, and they put out a series of Mythic products that fix it. They specifically, I believe, if they did not make it their mission to fix a lot of things that other companies made, they certainly have done so in a roundabout way. I'm not saying that I want to play Wrath of the Righteous. That's not true at all. I'm kind of happy for it being a campaign path I never explore at the table. But I have to say that
I'm kind of shocked at that. When I chose to play a paladin in your new game, you're like, I got one. I got a lawful good. I haven't seen one of these in 15 years. It was a mythical white rabbit for you with a couple of horns attached.
Last time I had a friend play a paladin, it was Adam, and we were playing through it was Adam, and then we were playing through Curse of the Crimson Throne in Washington, Illinois, and he got a chance to play in Book 5, which is my favorite part of that adventure path.
So that's why I was a little confused that, the adventure path specifically made, even says so in the introduction, for paladins. That you're not like one of those people who's like, yeah, I can fix this, I can homebrew it, let's play it.
Well, it doesn't say that it's not homebrewable. And here's a disgusting sound for you. Alright. It doesn't say you can't homebrew it, but the entirety of the campaign path, it puts a lid on the world bound. So from a story perspective, in your own home games, you can run the adventure path as you like. And you're going to have it in the official timeline. At this point, this adventure path has happened. This one has happened. This one has happened.
Right.
But no offense to Paizo. I like their campaign world. I don't like it as a whole, because when I first read the first iteration of the 3035 world book, they had all these different worlds that they had ideas for, and they threw them on a continent, a pair of continents. Mm-hmm. And they said, these all live next to each other. And I was like, no, I understand, I like the History Channel too. But if I ever built a campaign world, I would have...
You would not have Nazi Germany right next to Gypsy Land.
No, not in the least bit.
Yeah.
You would have different cultures, you would have clashes at the border for almost every geographic region, as we do in our own world.
Right.
But you were not going to have...
You're not going to Disneyland it in the sense of you step from Tomorrowland to...
pick a place.
Exactly. I haven't been to Disneyland in years. But there's a radical shift in, like, as soon as you step into the new area, everything changes. Mm-hmm. Colors change, style change, everything. And that's how it feels like in Pathfinder. In Gloria, their first-party setting.
And I don't mind their first-party setting, but I'm actually really happy they have that cancerous blight known as a whirlwind. Because it gives you a place, if you want to have an adventure path, if you want to have a mini campaign, if you want to have a few adventures in a hell-like region, or, hey, we're going to have a campaign where we actually go against a whirlwind, we're not playing Wrath of the Righteous, and I like it before we close the hole. Okay, well, that's great. In Wrath of the Righteous, they describe everything, and it harkened back to an old adventure path back in Dragon Magazine, 2006-07, where they did the Savage Tide adventure path. And they had... Are you not familiar with that?
No, not at all. I'll be part of the audience that, is learning something for the new time. First time.
They had a really neat, and Google this when you get home, the Savage Tide adventure path was everybody going against all the Greyhawk big ones. The Macabre was involved somehow. Orcus was involved somehow. You had
Orcus had his dick and everything.
Oh, it was wonderful. Every demon lord was involved. All of the basic thing was that they were planning on having the tides of the abyss wash over the material plane, and now everything would be demon infested. And it was good. I don't remember the main synergy points about it because this was 2007, but I read it 2008, 2009, and
sounds like a boss run.
It was a boss run, and it was set in 3.5, so it was on a high speed experience point train, and you had a blast. But there was so much to do in that campaign. It was really well done. And Wrath of the Righteous is on a. It feels like it's a fast XP track, but you're actually getting all your mythic stuff going along through time, and you become a 10th level mythic, 20th level character at the very end, I believe.
Yeah, most adventure paths only take you to like 16, 18 at most.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it leaves you something to do.
It does, and a lot of DMs don't ever really want to go past 20th level because the game breaks down at 20th level. I don't really agree with that, but you want to say, oh, it breaks down at 20th level, well, that's fine. If you don't want to play the same characters, I know combat loads up after about 10th level with 4 people at the table, not including the DM. 10 minutes for a combat round is about average.
10 minutes.
How many players do you play with that are casters? I used to have 2 to 4.
Well, okay, there you go.
If you saw the group that I had for Wrath of the Right or for Rise of the Rune Lords, my bad, I had like 8 people at the table. Some would have leadership, or some would
Come
have...
here, boy.
Marley.
Sorry. Technical difficulties with the dog.
Dog.
Come here, boy. Cannot go upstairs. Cannot follow mommy.
So anyway, and Marley is a black lab corgi. What type corgi?
He's a level 1 corgi, Cardigan Welsh corgi.
I'd say he's level 1.
Well, he's only 1 year old.
Well, I'd say he's at least level 2 because he looks like he'd take out a house cat.
Ha!
Anyway, there's a Pathfinderism for you. Back at 3.0, a house cat could kill commoners like it was nothing.
At any rate.
Anyway, the adventure paths that have been coming out from Paizo are really good.
Mm-hmm.
Although I've got my own personal grievances with them, they're not really. There's not a whole lot of bad ones out there. I mean, I'm going to take the opportunity fire to say Second Darkness should probably be rewritten by individual DMs, and they should be happy that they had the opportunity in the first few books to go against Drow, because the Drow are really damn good bad guys, and we've had a full generation of people grow up now playing this game with polyhedral die that Drow can make some of the best bad guys.
Definitely. Or we have an entire generation who grew up wanting to play a chaotic good Drow with 2 scimitars, and who is an exile. They're all exiles.
Second edition Drow Ranger clone. What's his name? Never mind. Starts with a D, ends with a T. Has 2 scimitars. Go on.
Yes. Yeah. You are dead first if you ever play one of those clones. I've seen it firsthand. This man hates clones.
I hate clones. I'm going to talk a little bit about Adventure Path that we started to play. Didn't really like it too much. But it was neat that it was a sequel. And for that I will give it its rights because it reads well when you're on the toilet and you want to pull ideas from it. And that would be Shattered Star.
When you play it, it plays like a toilet.
It really... all of the adventure paths are set at a certain power level. Keep that in mind. Except for Wrath of the Righteous, all the others are set at a certain power level where it's pretty low compared to what could be achieved with the player's handbook and 4-6 arranged as desired. You're going to have better characters than the 99% of all things statted up in these books. At the same time, when we started going through Shattered Star, I don't know if I had Superman at my characters. In my characters,
we did have a good group of characters though. We had a Blood Rager who, if you don't know what a Blood Rager is, it's from the Advanced Class Guide.
Absolute toilet book.
But he was basically a mix of a barbarian and a sorcerer, so he could Hulk out and get like claws, and that's what he focused on. He liked tearing people's throats out.
And it was a neat idea.
Yeah.
It really, I'm going to say this, but typically I don't like the Advanced Class Guidebook as far as classes are concerned because they're...
You call it a toilet, so...
Well,
There you go.
sometimes a writer takes a shit. And to me, that book is shit. Actually, the last few releases in hardcover, Paizo has really not made me a happy consumer, but that's fine. And they can cater to people that feel the ACG is neat at the table because we want to have a character that he's not like a barbarian sorcerer that doesn't quite come out on the power curve right. The Blood Rager is superior to that combo, and it is very well deserved.
I would honestly say that the hybrid classes from the ACG honestly do take some of the really interesting character class, multi-classing options that I've even personally growing up have wanted to play before. I constantly would make a joke about playing a Barbarian. And they have that. It's called the Skald.
They're not poorly thought out, but I want to say the finished product, it could go back and have another 2 years in beta. That's not the problem with the game. The problem is having somebody at the table that demands they get to use the character out of that book, no matter what. And the Blood Rager wasn't bad.
Did anyone demand to play?
I requested him not to use that, but he wanted to play a Blood Rager. Okay, fine.
He probably just got the book. It was new. Please. We're not gonna.
No.
Yeah.
But the ACG has some really neat feats in it. The feats in that book, everybody should be familiar with as much as you're familiar with ones in Ultimate Combat, Ultimate Magic.
It honestly reminded me from 3.5, Player Handbook 2, in the feat style, because it would take feats that were for higher level characters to give those characters a little more uniqueness and polish.
Yeah, and you need that at the high level because a lot of individuals have no imagination when they stat their characters. They start putting something together and they get it fully out of the core rulebook, which is not a bad idea. You can do a lot of good with the core rulebook.
But at higher levels, everyone starts looking the same if we're just using core. Not everyone at the table.
After about 5 campaigns, you look the same.
The characters start blending.
And I'm not against the ACG wholly. I would say that if you're playing an investigator, I'm going to have you pee in a cup because that just, to me, statistically makes no sense.
I actually looked over the investigator, and I actually want to play one. You piqued my interest about it. I'm like, how terrible can this class be?
It's okay.
It's a great skill monkey.
I'll take a ranger or a rogue.
It's not meant for combat. Okay. It has some things for combat, but it's not suited for combat, say like a rogue is, or a ranger in special cases.
I'll agree with that.
But
for an urban campaign, it would be great. And it would make an interesting game to play an investigator paired with, especially like if you just have like roommates that are, interested in gaming and you want to have them play.
My wife and I.
It would be neat to have a druid and an investigator pal around for a bit. Even though druids typically don't get along well in urban games, you could have a real interesting setup with an investigator and a druid because a druid does bring some muscle, summons, and then the investigator being the skill whore that he is, it would work out pretty well.
And that is quite the odd couple pairing. I would love to see a webcomic based on that.
Webcomic, yeah. The thing that I guess probably the sourest note, and this is personal preference because I'm more traditional in a lot of things.
I can already tell where this is going.
I didn't like the fact that they put a transgender backstory to one of the characters in the ACG.
Did not expect that one. I don't really have a problem with that. It's the character. You don't have to. I've never ran a game or been in a game aside from Pathfinder Society, where any of the iconics ever showed up or made or were for anything at all.
Okay.
So I don't have a problem with it.
Paizo prides themselves on being on the cutting edge of societal, or I would not say progressivism, but they are a very
They're
left of-
LGBT friendly, and I have no problem with that.
They're left of center, which most writers are. I'm not going to say it's a great thing or a bad thing. Is it the thing I want to have in my game? Let's not focus on that so much. I don't want to focus on Sione being a gay cleric. That's fine if she wants to be a gay cleric. I read the Pathfinder comics that take place in the City of Secrets, and they were really well done. But the end of it, there's a character arc between Sione and Mariciel, the Elven Rogue, and I didn't need to have romance of any type in a good story. Does it add to it? If I didn't have my personal views, it might have added. I didn't feel it was necessary.
And I'm going to go out and say, I've played this game for a long time. I didn't even know, based on just the core rulebook, that they were a couple or anything like that. I didn't know their sexual preferences. So, in the adventure paths, or their...
From what it reads like, Mariciel's more trisexual, and Sione's more strictly clan.
Okay.
I mean, that's that's what they want to write. That's what they want to write. I'm not going to say, how dare you do that. No, I really do like the idea of people writing what they want. If you know me personally, I am a free speech advocate, and I believe that as a comedian or a writer or as just a human being, you should be allowed to think however you want.
Agreed. This isn't China or North Korea.
I don't like the idea of burning all the books I disagree with. There's one book in particular worldwide I would probably go for, but we're not going to go into that.
Thank you.
With that being said, Paizo added something with that the LGBT community that they have grabbed onto and they love. And that's great, because I'm going to go on another tangent here. Typically, gaming is not done by people who were jocks and popular kids in high school. They were typically embraced since, nice roll of a 1 there. That die hates me too.
That's why I'm not a jock. That was my life role.
Yeah. I tried wrestling. I wasn't that good at it. I did it for 3 years.
Someone really loved grappling, man.
I like beating people.
Or that.
I didn't do that. I didn't beat a lot of... I was a horrible wrestler in high school. I've gotten a lot better since I gained weight. Anyway. But
Bruce likes to pin him.
Yeah, I do. Humiliation. I like the people that I've gained with over the years, and a lot of them haven't been super popular types. Most of them have been, as time's gone on, I've gone more professional. And this is really the first group I've had that I don't have over half the table with bachelor's and master's degrees. I had one table that had nothing but master's degrees individuals. I felt like Sam the Butcher as her DM, because I had 2 doctors, I had a lawyer, and I had quite a bit of professionalism at the table. And they were when they got to the table, they were so happy that it's Bruce's game, let's unfurl. And they were the most rambunctious, obnoxious, boisterous people I've ever met in my life. The lawyer's wife, Scott's wife, I remember, she was just a hoot to play with, because in her professional life she was a human resources director for a corporation. And I will say this much: the things that she said could not be uttered, even in the 1970s on Saturday Night Live.
It would be an HR issue.
Horrible HR issue. So we had that, and that's the sort of thing that I really enjoyed. I like that, because the games are supposed to be where people can relax and cut up. For crying out loud, it always pisses me off to go into a forum or on the internet and you want to read something, and in the comment section somebody gets obscenely butthurt and they make everybody else know about this. That's okay. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that whenever it's time to game, let's put part of this aside. Let's not involve that. Let's just focus on the 6 of us, the 8 of us, the 4 of us all working together, rolling dice, eating chips, farting, having numerous accolades together.
And food.
Food.
food,
This is food. This is caused by food.
beer.
No, food.
No, I'm just saying at the table, if there's not food, beer, snacks, and just loud joking behavior before the game starts. I'm one of the people who, like I said before, when I DM, it's typically between 3 or 4 people. He runs his game every 2 weeks for about 8 hours, 12 hours a game session. I'm the DM where I like to meet at least once a week and maybe have 3 or 4 hours. So for me, it's getting that crunch in there of just like game. At this table, it's a lot less game, and more we're here to have fun. And if people are having fun and the game is paused for a little bit, people are still having fun.
Mm-hmm. I would much rather everybody leave that night having felt like they enjoyed themselves. I don't like. I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound kind of odd, but I don't like the idea of having a TPK and everybody leaving the table with a sour taste in their mouth. Granted, TPKs happen. Get over it. You know, it's going to happen. You're going to have dice that just they do that.
Always have backup characters planned. If not, already set it up and put onto a sheet. Just so that if there is a TPK, we can break for an hour or anything like that. Go refresh ourselves, go mutter dark curses at the DM, and come back with this new group of characters being like, okay, so how do we all know each other?
You're in the bar, and a man in the bar hands you a map and a bag of money.
And that bag of money happens to have a seal of the old party.
You know, I'm gonna go back in the Wayback Machine for a second. You never played Tolus, which was the original 3.0 campaign setting. Monty Cook wrote about it inadvertently in his DMG from 3.0, and he talked quite a bit about this later on when it finally became a print product. It was a wonderful print product. It was like 700 pages of just good, meaty information, 13 districts in the city, fully fleshed NPCs, a campaign ready to run from 1st to 20th level with included books of Night of Disillusion, the Bone Warrens, and then it had higher level stuff in the book. And that was like just part of the stuff that he had available. He had all these NPCs ready for you. And all you had to do is just spend the time and read this book and get familiar with the map. And understand the map is not a 2D item, it's a 3D item because it's a river city. So you have all these hills and valleys in the city, you have all these elevation changes.
How big was the book of the City of Tolus? Was it as big as this book, or is it as big as Slumbering Czar?
It's probably a little, it would be this size if you had the included DVD items put into it. Now this here is the Slumbering Czar.
You could kill somebody with it.
Now, I don't know why my recording is putting this in reverse, but just note that this is a Slumbering Czar from Frog God Games. We'll get into that in just a second. The reason why I brought these out was I wanted to talk to you about Shattered Star real quick, because we were playing through that campaign and we felt like we were really not accomplishing much. The first book passed us by and nobody slapped each other's hands, high-fived, and maybe I thought I was doing a bad job as a DM.
He even threw in like a ton of extra monsters.
Yeah.
And even with that, it was, oh, you knocked down the sandcastle. Good job.
Yeah. A lot of the skill challenges in there were, I felt, low for a DM. A lot of the NPCs were nice thoughts, but poorly executed when you put them on the table. And some of the theory behind it was they have to have it available for everybody to play. But here I am running a table where pretty much everybody's a veteran of this game.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Everybody's been playing 3.0 for a while. 15 years. We know how to do our ranks, which class skills need to be checked, etc.
Well, most of us.
And one of us was playing the Bloodborne, or Blood Rager, excuse me. And I didn't really mean for this to happen, but even then, his character was pretty much getting knocked down every combat, wasn't it? About 2/3.
Until he actually gained the ability to cast spells, in which case he gained, basically it was magic armor. or
Yeah.
mage armor. He basically gained mage armor, and then he actually had the AC to stand up on his own. But before that, he only had a 12 in dexterity,
He kept trying to be a frontline fighter.
and our bard was actually more of a frontline fighter. Our bard, who was that was my character, level 1 cavalier on a dire corgi. I wonder where I got that idea from. And
You had that idea before you got your dog.
I love corgis regardless, but that's neither here nor there.
It's alright, I'm a fan of the Schnauzer.
And 4 levels of bard, and so I had a +4 base attack bonus.
Mm-hmm.
I rolled really well for hit points. I took toughness just in case.
Toughness is required.
And basically what I would do is I would bard song to begin with, and then I took teamwork feats so that I could buff people outside of just
Yeah, being...
aside from just being a bard. And for all those would-be bards up there, you don't have to have an instrument, you don't have to be a dancer, you don't have to be a singer. You can be a badass.
Mm-hmm.
Tell your party to kick them in the nuts, and that's enough.
Yeah, that pretty much is it. They're within earshot, they get your bonuses.
Yep.
I like the bard, and I'm not digging on his character.
Right.
But I just noticed that, like, it seemed like every time we'd start a game, like, when combat would start, his character would be in a bad position, or he wouldn't try to go for the optimum spot. And I don't really mind people being an optimizer or min-maxer. I really don't, because you need that in some campaigns. Apparently Shattered Star you didn't, and we got into book 2, the gender swap happened to that character, and I was pretty impressed. It seems like everybody's had that happen when they play it. I don't think anybody has played through that campaign and their DM was like, well, you made the right skill check, this doesn't happen. No, actually that's something that the DM reads and he says, ooh, I have an idea. This is going to cause me some joy, maybe them some pain. And it's interesting because you take the form of the previous Rune Lord from thousands of years ago.
Evil person who was very good at enchantment spells.
Mm-hmm. Lusty little bitch. She's quite an individual that it's fun to read about what happened back then. They need another couple of Varisia books, I'm just going to say. I myself prefer Varisia out of all the Pathfinder settings because I'm used to it. But we were playing through that campaign and we got through that portion and then we never finished that book. I remember I bought another book that I have been running through now.
I really feel that we need to put up like maps or something back here.
Maybe. This is the Stoneheart Valley by Frog God Games.
Amazing setting so far.
There's a couple things about the campaign we're doing that are a little bit off from your typical Paizo Pathfinder style game. This one here, when we started running it, I wanted to embrace this book, the Book of the Righteous.
From Green Ronin Press.
Yeah, it's an older book. It doesn't really need an update. I'm going to say they could print it out again, and they could make a good chunk of money. But it's a book that if you read it as a DM or world builder, if you're a writer,
Or someone who likes divine characters. Paladin.
Yeah.
Cleric.
I really love that book because it has a very nice theocracy in it, or it has a very nice, I guess you'd say, pantheon. And there's a couple pantheons in there, one of the Great Tree, one of whatever, but it does a fantastic job of giving you ready to run churches in your world.
Each has about 10 pages dedicated to the god, their beliefs, scriptures, mannerisms, what their priests wear, what their priests eat, do, say, holy days, things that they abhor, things that they cherish. It's really great for fleshing out a very deity-heavy, religion-heavy campaign. And if you're playing a campaign right, they should be. It's a major part of everyone's lives I'm not going to say back then like it was a historical date, but in these kinds of settings, short of Lord of the Rings, most settings had established religions.
I can't really think of anything aside from Tolkien that doesn't have some focus on the belief.
At least, either in describing how the world came to be, or even currently existing inside the world beside us.
Correct.
And even Tolkien had angels in the sense of the Minor.
Mm-hmm.
So, there you go.
That was one thing I wanted to do with the campaign, was have the Book of the Righteous be like the new gods. And the older religions are the ones that are the traditional Frog God Games deities, which you can find on the PFSRD webpage.
Freya!
Sorry. Another thing I brought into my campaigns is I bought a book about a year ago called Deep Magic.
It is a headache, but it is a well-published, well-made, well-written headache.
If you want casters in your game, there's a book called Ultimate Magic that's improperly named. In my opinion,
It was boring.
Yeah, it was. It really is boring. The Magus class is okay. You've got a glass cannon. He gets all of his spells out in the first couple
4.
rounds. Yeah. Excuse me.
Unless they play it right, in which case you hold on to it and you're not a frontline fighter. You get up onto the side, flank, and then you're able to hit you with your spells.
Exactly. I like the Magus too, don't get me wrong. But there are some concepts, there are some spells, and Ultimate Magic that they don't focus on. Excuse me. And the people at Kobold Press wrote the Midgard setting. Midgard is a campaign that I'll probably never run. I love it. From what I've read, I love it. It is an amazing setting. It is a Viking campaign on steroids. It is a campaign you play when you say, I like the idea of Niflheim, Asgard. I like these things. I like the idea of fighting against giants.
Basically, if you just watch Thor 2, you get a hard-on for being Thor.
Yeah.
Just like how we got a hard-on after watching Mad Max of playing an apocalypse setting.
That is always fun. And the feeling I always get when I read through Stoneheart Valley, when I read through this book, I read like, okay, there's adventures in here, and it's really not a campaign book. It's got adventures in it. It's 3 adventures you get for $40, $50, somewhere around there. And they don't detail the world a whole lot, but you can tell that things are not the way they should be, because in the Tomb of the Abyssor, in the Crucible of Freya,
Is that in there?
Yeah, the Crucible of Freya.
I was going to ask you if you could get the Crucible of Freya, because I saw it on eBay. I didn't know if you had it or not, but if it's in there, I can't wait to freaking try that.
You did.
What? That was
the first 3 levels of that. The first 3 levels you deal with the Wizard's Amulet, which you guys did within like a night and a half.
Wait,
and then,
but we never...
Then you had the Crucible of Freya, where the Crucible, the caster's artifact bowl gets stolen, and it goes off to the keep. And then you guys go to the keep after you adventured around, got a couple levels, because it's for first to third level. And you do this wonderful low-level adventure, and there's so many good instances where you have these intriguing NPCs written into it, and it does everything it's supposed to. Bill Webb, Clark Peterson. Bill Webb and Clark Peterson wrote these adventures about 15 years ago, and they didn't go the full stat block that you usually see in a 3.0 or Pathfinder product. They give you enough of personality in a synopsis, and then they write a little bit further in the locations as you're reading through this, as what characters would do in this area, and they give you enough to where as a DM you can latch onto it and you can develop some really good moments at the table.
It was amazing. After coming off of Shattered Star, and it wasn't even like A lot of the adventure paths are meant for a group of 4 to 5 characters around roughly the same level, sent on a path that is not railroaded per se on some, but it's managed.
Yeah.
And we had a group of about 7 people at the table. But it wasn't even that we had 7 people at the table, because most of the time it would be about 4 or 5 of us, since some couples wouldn't be able to make it, some people wouldn't be able to make it. Things happen. We're all adults. It's fine. It's life.
I don't expect everybody to be at the table whenever I want to start, because we have jobs.
Right. Well,
you guys would prefer to me be here more often. I have to be at a job site extracting oil.
That's your life. But coming off of that and entering the Stoneheart Valley, apparently doing the Crucible Fray, which I didn't know that was the adventure that we were doing. I just thought it was... Bruce likes to do a lot of random plot threads and see where those go. I thought that's what you were doing. I thought you were just playing off the cuff. I didn't realize that was the adventure path. And with that being said, that's pretty well done, actually. Because we went from one thing to another, to another, to another, without even realizing, that it was the predetermined adventure. It was amazing. And every time that we played, no matter if it was a group of 3 to 4 of us, or if everybody was here, it was difficult. It was intense. Level 1, we took down an owlbear.
Okay, first off, let's set this up. I don't want people to say, oh, they put him in a 10-foot by 10-foot room and they killed an owlbear. Fairly. No, not really.
No, it was not fair. But even the paladin who started the fight...
Oh, God.
will admit, it was not fair. But that creature should not have been pissing where it wanted to. That's against the law.
First thing I do when I wake up, it's the first thing my dog did when he woke up. It's probably the first thing you do when you wake up. He got out of his cave. He went over to his favorite spot,
which was by a cliff, by the way. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he squatted and let it gently go down the cliff. And shit doesn't have to take falling damage. Owlbears do.
Well, I've got to say that I set it up to where I didn't want you to go after it. I put obstacles in the way to protect you, not to give you cover. So you're like, oh, let's go and take him out. If I roll this right, I'm going to get all the experience. Ah! No.
Okay, nothing was said about experience. Rolling it right, though, it was, if I roll this right, this is going to be a great fight. If I roll this wrong...
You are so hosed.
I am dead. Our cleric, who also happened to be a previous character of mine, was a cleric of travel, so he could allow characters to ignore difficult terrain. Well, Bruce set this up so that this owlbear was squatting over a cliff about 20 feet away from the underbrush, the forest.
Underbrush, and there was elevation changes, and I made it to where the party, oh, wait, we probably shouldn't be here. I could die.
Yeah, he definitely, he described it as this menacing, hulking beast taking a gigantic, veiny, popping out of his feathered neck poo. This guy ate some cheese that was really bad or something. But Paladin, being the Paladin, was like, you know what? No, it's on a cliff. We can take this. Cleric is like, okay. Decides to give the Paladin the ability to charge through the underbrush, not having to deal with difficult terrain or anything like that. Paladin charging bull rushes the owlbear off the cliff.
And it was really cute because you did everything right. You charged it, you rolled, your tally was just what you needed.
Beat it by 5.
Yeah, and over this side it goes. You know, as a DM, I will allow you to get the advantage. You're ballsy.
Half-orc.
You might not value your life. Okay, we'll go with this.
I need more potion to cure that wounds.
And went down about 50 feet and had to meander about, and they found the owlbear. Not too happy. It was kind of injured. It lost about 10 or 15 hit points in the process, and they finished it off. They did a really good job. And then there was another part of that campaign where we were doing our business, and they met up with Feldrin, the farmer whose family had been killed by a manicore. And they talked for a while, and the book states that if the players agree to help him,
which we did,
he will help them go and try to locate this manicore. And I'm more of an old school DM than a standardization Pathfinder guy. I really don't like a lot of die rolls when it comes to dealing with diplomacy or socializing checks. I want to have people get into the character and actually talk as this character would, and I'll try to respond.
Well, the way you say that, it makes it seem like we never do any diplomacy checks.
We do.
If you...
But they're bolstered by the performance you give.
Right. He doesn't want you to go into town and be like, I gather information. Where do you gather information? Who do you talk to?
Me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you ham it up for him and take 5 minutes out of everyone's time and make it believable, make it worthwhile, he'll give you +5, +10 to the roll.
Yeah.
If it's really well done. If it's really poorly done, well, you tried.
And I think that 3.0 and 3.5 succeeded on a lot of levels, but when it came to the diplomacy, gather information portion of it, a lot of adventure writers turned it more into a video game to where when they were
Press
writing
X to gather information.
Yeah, hammer X, and like, oh my, yes, that's all it was. And there's a book called Swords and Wizardry, and lucky number 7, they have a primer for old school gaming on their website. I highly recommend everybody read it, because even if you don't want to do OSR, even if you're like, I'm Pathfinder Society for the rest of my days, read it. Take a look at it, because a lot of the books you're reading now for your games, 5th Ed or Pathfinder, or even 4th Ed, old diehards, you probably are reading something that was spawned during the 90s or the early 2000s, and these were ideas that were given before this new game came out.
Yeah.
And we are playing a game that has been modified heavily since 1974. So keep in mind, the old school is where a lot of these concepts have originated from. So do try to read every bit of gaming that you can.
Speaking of old school...
Oh God. What do you have there?
I have Ultimate Psionics, which is published by Dreamsguard Press.
One of the best books for player characters you could have.
Psionics, as a lot of us remember back from 2nd edition on.
Was
it in first?
It was in first. It was in the player's handbook in 1st Ed.
Ooh. It's, for a lot of DMs, it's daunting. It's almost like a whole new system. When
it
really,
is. It is a whole new system that is well done.
Yes. Ultimate Psionics is a third-party system. Well, not so much system, but additional system.
Yeah, it integrates well.
That was, exactly, it was made amazing. And it was made so well, in fact, that it even got Paizo to recognize it in their Occult Adventures, which, not to date this, well, it's going to be time-stamped anyway.
Yeah.
Occult Adventures, which is going to be coming out very shortly, they did not, that's their version of Psionics, did not step on the toes at all of Dreamsguard Press.
Mm-mm. They both sync well together.
It's amazing to see a first-party publisher work hand-in-hand so well with a third-party publisher for their system. When
we were going from Pathfinder, or from 3.5 into Pathfinder, a lot of people that I knew, I have Drain Gnats Some people in my apartment have had this problem. I've got them. Anyway, we have we had people at my old store that I used to go to a lot. They were always asking, "Are you going to go with 4th Ed? We're going to go with 4th Ed when it comes out." And I thought,
That's such
I
promise.
just discovered that Paizo was doing a beta playtest for their system, and so I had a friend download all the rules for me because at the time I lived out in the country. We didn't have good selection, so I got the printout and I looked through it, and I found out they had a beta book. And for $20, go get the beta. All right, here we go. Holy shit! The beta book for Paizo had me sold on every product they've done since.
3.75.
It was so well done, and there were things that they changed from beta to the version that we all play now, the torn up book that you saw. Let me just say that Paizo has my dollar. As much as I might disagree with some of their decisions, I don't think that everything they've done is great, but their core system, if I want to run something, I allow these items here. If I want to allow this over here, I have to look, will it integrate well with this? Will these ideas mix and match well? I've got to say that Ultimate Psionics is going to be at my table for the rest of the games I run.
Maybe not the complete focus of the game.
No, not
but
the least.
It does add a lot of new options for characters. I myself, I'm playing a paladin, like I've said 3 times now.
I'm not a paladin. You are a paladin / purifier, correct?
I'm a purifier.
Okay.
Purifier is a paladin archetype from the Ultimate Psionics book, which instead of getting spells, I get psionic powers. They're basically the same. It gives me a bunch of different options rather than being able to be like, I heal, I remove disease, I do this. Instead, I basically psionically focus myself, and because of that, I'm able to, hit the sweet spot a lot more often. I'm able to see between the lines of reality and figure out that through self-discovery, I can still be this font of lawful goodness and a bastion against evil, especially aberrations, because
Yes.
fuck those guys. It adds such a wide variety for new character flavor that I love, without being hybrid classes.
I bought the book back in January, and I went over to the local store we have, which is Dragon's Lair in San Antonio, and they had a bunch of books that were third party at the time. I myself love third party, and I always try to tell people third party is where any gaming system is going to flourish, and that will tell you how secure that's going to be on the shelf at gamers' homes, at the stores. Is there a thriving third party market? Is there a third party market that's worth getting into these base systems and enjoying the hell out of it? Because if you have good third party products, people will explore more than just the first 5 or 6 APs that you've put out. 5th edition, the IP edition as I call it, is a good game. Don't get me wrong, but you're not going to see it at my table because it's just not the game I want to run. And from what I've heard my players say, they don't want to spend their time at my table playing it.
Nope.
Pathfinder has so many good options for us to go from first level to wherever we cap at. 20th, over 20th level, I don't care. I want to have a great time. And I think a lot of people feel that way, but a lot of individuals are so scared to death of third-party products because it's not truly a Paizo product, so we don't allow that. It's OP. And I'm thinking to myself, hold on, have you played the ninja out of the Ultimate Combat book?
Level 2, let me go invisible.
Not only that, evasion, improved evasion, and the 20th level capstone, you cannot find me.
Well, that's okay. That's 20th level.
Okay, we'll agree. We'll agree. Some people do things really well, and by 20th level, those things you focused on, damn it, you're good at.
Yeah, exactly.
But I have to say that I find the Paizo stuff is almost written more OP than a lot of third-party products, and so this. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to. I know this is very odd coming from like the back and everything, but a lot of times if you're a newer player and you're playing with a group of newer players,
Yeah.
you're going to stick with what you know. You know Paizo. I don't know the third parties until you actually showed it to me.
I'm gonna agree with her. I didn't either.
Well, let me just say this. I've been playing Paizo for 5 years, and actually 6. I'm going to say that we've had a blast playing it. No, 2007. We went over in 2007.
Still a blast, no matter
Yeah,
what.
yeah. We've been involved with this for years, and Paizo stuff has aged well because of the robust third party, and a lot of things that are written by the third party guys. When you look at the contents, there's a good possibility that you have a author that was involved with Paizo on something else. Owen Casey Stevens, I don't know if you people know who that is, but he's an author who has done tremendous work for Paizo. He was one of their main freelancers for the longest time, and now he has his own company, so he has his own schedule, vacation time, whatever. But he makes enough off this system of being a third-party guy to where he can afford to focus on that, and that's great. As a DM, I'm going to say that you need a couple things in your game, and one thing that you need is always, you need a rule set, so you go for Paizo.
Oh, you're grabbing that thing.
I'm
This
grabbing a book.
Character death.
I'm grabbing this book here, which is the Advanced Bestiary. I got involved with a Kickstarter on it, and holy shit! You want to talk about a book that, when I read the blurb on Paizo when they were talking about it, hey, get behind it, it's really good. They were updating a book from 3.0, 3.5 days. They added templates, and all it was templates. Every example template had a monster. They statted up, here you go, try this.
And it wasn't just like a half-fiend Minotaur.
No.
No.
No. This is a book that I believe everybody at every table needs to have somebody that gets involved with this. Owen Casey Stevens he's given the credit for development. This is probably, as a DM, I'm going to say this is his crowning achievement. And this has been out for 10 years now or so, because it was a 3.0 book, like I said, and the 3.0 book was amazing. With this you have an exponential multiplier for all of the monster books in your possession. This is something you need because you don't know if you're ever going to need a Dread White, or if you're ever going to need a Clockwork, what have you. This is a book that allows you to expand upon the themes in your campaign, and it allows you these things. You don't have to use them for combat. You don't have to. There's over 100 templates in here for a reason, and they each give you a valid reason for putting them in your game. But you don't need to use every monster in your campaign as an XP tag. And my old roommate Martin would probably say, Bruce, every monster in your campaign is an XP tag. Well, no, my players mainly went on that aspect.
If you stat it, they will kill it.
I agree with that. I agree. What I appreciate
Those
about...
poor orphans.
Oh, dear Lord. Anyway.
Paladin does not recommend orphan killing unless you're 1 XP away.
That's why you go find a dragon.
Just make sure you're up and over that, by a few hundred points on your XP. I'm legitimately 4th level now.
Yep.
Don't I get my skill points?
I cut into the dragon. I should get like 1/8 of his experience since I've dealt 1/8 of the damage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I should level up during the fight.
But I've got to say the Advanced Bestiary is a requirement for every campaign table. The 3 books as DM I would have at your table for any game is going to be Advanced Bestiary, Ultimate Psionics, and Deep Magic, because those 3 books provide you as a DM with so many options to throw at your players. That way your campaign doesn't feel like the last game you played.
Yeah.
You don't want to have that. You don't want to have a stale feeling. I've had character attrition and player attrition because of the fact that people got tired of, we're just running out of these 3 books, Ultimate Magic, Ultimate Combat, and Core Rulebook, really? And they get pissed. I get it. I understand that. As a DM, I want to have people that are engaged with the game, and understand sometimes I'm going to be dealing with somebody else at the table, so you're going to pull your phone out and you're going to play Candy Crush. Okay, great. You're going to probably have that at every table. Somebody will pull out their magic cards, optimize their deck, or what have you. But I don't like it whenever you're scheduling a game and you hear somebody say, I'd rather just sit at home and be a social justice warrior on Facebook than come to your game. And I look at that person, I'm like, you have a choice.
Rather come to the game and be a social justice warrior.
Yeah.
That's what I am.
Yeah.
Orc power.
I'm not going to spread feminism to everybody, so I might as well go kill all the orcs in Bruce's imaginary world.
But I'm an orc.
Oops. No, the game we've got right now is really well put together. It's primarily Stoneheart Valley and using the books I've thrown up here for campaign reasons. I thought I would share this because this is something we've been hearing about a lot in the forums. Third-party products, are they worth the lick? Is this good? Oh, back to third-party products. I've got that.
Oh, good.
I believe I have that. I think it's over there.
All right.
There's a company called Legendary Games. Haven't talked about them much, but like it's Jason Eric Nelson, Clinton Boomer, Clark Peterson, Bill Webb, those two guys from FGG. You've got some other Paizo alumni in there. Remember, Lisa was involved with one of the last products. They've been doing a ton of stuff. And I'm going to just say that if you disagree with me on the Mythic adventures or whatnot, and you're like, no, really, you have to bring in the game because their products do kick that much ass to where it makes you resize how much do you want this in your game. Is this overwhelming? Must we put this in the game because they did fix everything? Well, then great. That's good for you. I only don't have much time. I want to run the games I have, and I don't want to be waiting for mail order to bring all 20, 30 books they've got out that fix Mythic, just so I can run a Mythic game. Which at some point, I probably will run Wrath of the Righteous. It'll be my version of it. Right now, I still have to get my players to the Slumbering Tsar Saga, which I've ran before to a TPK. One thing to be said, game developers, do me a favor. At the end of every book you make, could you add just one extra sheet of paper? Because to me, it's so fucking challenging whenever you say, at the end of Slumbering Tsar and Rapanathuk, we're going to have 8 pages of obituaries available for you to write things down. As a DM, you're telling me...
With like 50 on each page?
Yeah, you're telling me as a DM, basically, that you don't have the balls to run this the way it was intended. Be deadly. Be a good, fair DM. But understand that this campaign is meant to be rough. And Rapanathuk and Slumbering Tsar both do that. I ran both books, not to completion, but I ran both books, and I've had numerous characters die from those. A lot of times it's not really even the bad guys that do it. It's other players getting revenge on other players.
Don't ever take revenge or make a character to avenge or some slight of whatnot just because there's a paladin in the group. Especially one that's not even telling you not to. I'm saying for all paladins.
I hate douchebags. I hate douchebags at the table. I'm not gonna lie. That being said, I've got some players at my table that they do like playing evil characters, and most of the time they work out really well with the campaign. They add a lot.
Paul, even a friend of ours, who was at the table, who's currently overseas right now.
Mm-hmm.
He played a lawful evil caster, or wizard, in the same party as a lawful good paladin. And you would think most paladins would detect evil, smite evil, ask questions, never.
But in the old days, you had that because paladins in First Ed could not be in the same party as an evil character.
If they knew. And yes, most people would just be like, I detect evil and scan over everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, it's not Big Brother, it's just me doing the right thing. Okay, Big Brother.
And it was written for that reason in the first Ed days, because there were some really big bonuses given to paladins, and there were
Still
there's a lot of good things to come out from those books, from those rule sets, but I just hate having players be douchebags to other players, because we take time out of our few hours of free time a month to play these games, and if you're playing a game mainly just to get back at Bobby because he killed your Uber Timmy,
or he is representing something you don't like or whatnot. But like I was trying to say, I sat right next to Paul. Our characters even worked together outside of combat to get things accomplished. And do you want to know why? I wasn't a douchebag and just excuse me.
Bless you.
Big Brother scanned everybody, and he wasn't a douchebag and murdered orphans in front of me.
Yeah, the thing is that Detect Evil typically goes over evil intent at the time of the casting. Now, sometimes you're going to have some guys that have just done so many heinous things that the evil clings onto them, and is a visible cloud, a miasma hovering about, that Detect Evil will immediately, oh, you've done some bad things, haven't you?
Anti-paladins, clerics of evil gods, if you're carrying very evil artifacts. But for most people, like a mercenary wizard who isn't above doing terrible things for the right price.
Yeah.
If he hasn't done too many of those, if he's taken money to harass some people, he's going to have a very faint aura, and it. Especially a paladin like myself, who is a half-orc and deals with prejudice on a daily basis. People do things for all sorts of reasons. It's not any reason to judge them. They can be redeemed. And I never once found out about his alignment in-game. I don't know what would have happened if I did. Probably not the whole smite evil, ask questions never. Maybe a talking to, or a roleplay session. But
it was more than likely one of those deals where we were playing it and everybody was enjoying themselves to the point to where we were in character to a degree. Excuse me for disappearing from view for a second. We were playing a game to where we were supremely involved in the game. We were involved with our characters, and there was so much good interaction that we at the table knew how we were going to desire the ending to come about. We didn't know if those ends would actually see reality for those characters, but we had such a good time in interacting. I've got to say that we had... Stay away from that. You won't like that, Marley. Anyway, we had such a good time investigating the things that were going on during the Slumbering Czars, or the Crucible of Freya, that we didn't care about alignment. The Paladin was helping the Wizard. The Paladin was doing his thing. The Paladin was making sure that the town was rather, I guess you'd say, at a good point in time. They were growing. They were having things happen, and the benefits. We helped out people in Cremor, the small village, and
a lot, actually.
Paul did some severe amounts of engineering roles just to try to start irrigation, trying to help that town start surviving again. Because when it's written in, it sounds like it's on its last leg. They've had the fishing trade dry up, which is why the town even started in the first place. The lake was a huge supply of good fish. And you find out that there's some sea ogres, Lokalith, I believe is what they're called, that are causing a drought, or causing a severe amount of, how would you say, they were just eating the stock of the lake. They were going through and making sure that they were harvesting that themselves.
They were fat.
Anyone from Texas, if you know about what's going on with the drought in Medina Lake, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Texas, California, even now, is pretty bare, and that was what was happening here. It was the water was being drained for these gluttons, and the fish that could be harvested probably were being eaten by sturges.
Yeah.
And the fish that weren't harvested went to the ogres. So these poor fishermen had nothing to live off of.
And the town of Cremor, the way it's written, it's a really well put together portion. It's just a blip on the map, literally like a page. Literally,
it's not even on the main map.
It is actually.
It is.
Oh, not the fold out map.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the main map, which I want to put up here. But on the local map, yeah, it's there. But yeah, it's a small fishing village. It's a thorp. It's a hamlet. All the families are kind of, related in that weird H.P. Lovecraft sort of way.
And there's another portion of the book that I feel we should probably talk about. There's a woodcutter named Hurl, and he is watching over a woman, a hag, for intents and purposes. She's an adept who's exiled herself. The hag, earlier on, was blinded by a cleric, Chandril, and exiled from town.
Well, she deserved it.
But the woodcutter, being a man with a heart of gold, maybe he's just lonely. Who knows?
The DM does, but he's not telling.
We had this game go on for about, 4 sessions worth?
Yeah.
And you guys kind of had a few rumors given to you. But
even a magic item given to us.
The magic item they found was underneath one of the towers at the keep. And they got to the door of it, and it's nailed shut by these silver nails. And that's enough of a ward for the undead underneath it to not breach it. And they're thinking, like, I'm at work and I'm hearing these guys talk, and we're instant messaging each other. And they're like, man, I want to know, we've heard there's a vampire underneath there. What the hell's going to go on, is this... And, like, I'm building this up, and I'm just enjoying this, because I get antsy towards, like, the last 3 days of work before I go on my days off. I start just wanting to just bite into my books and just start reading them and just start, like,
my phone blows up with text from Bruce, or Facebook messages, or calls at 11 p.m. at night. Hey, I want to talk. Okay, Bruce, let me just, get dressed and head outside, because I don't want to wake up my wife.
So we're all talking about this, and I'm not the only one talking this. There will be other people that are discussing the campaign.
Jack and I constantly talk about it.
It's just one of those deals to where the party got this magic item from the loot from this dead wizard, and the magic item had 2 command words to it.
Magic staff.
One was his name. One was this lady's name, who's now a hag in the woods. And the characters, for like a full day, they're stumbling around. And they're just kind of, we want to build this keep. We know it's about 44 build points, and we want to build this keep, and we'd love to do Kingmaker. We want to do a Kingmaker style game, on the side. And like, that's cool, let's do it. But when we're at the table, I don't really want to talk about Kingmaker style rules. That's why we have a Facebook page for our communications. That's why we have that. So we can communicate, we can get everything done when we're not at the table.
Well, the Kingmaker is like accounting. So
yeah,
there's a lot of roles involved. It's really good for either if we're at the table and there's a lull.
Yeah.
Like, say, everyone, like, some people leave to go get food. Or if we're leveling up and someone finishes it quickly. But Kingmaker, it happens once a month in game time.
Yeah.
So the DM sets game time. Sometimes we're like, hey, we want to take a month off.
That's fine. If you really want to do that, that's okay. Me, myself, I don't really allow a month off to actually happen. Shit will happen, and your characters will be like, I was supposed to be on vacation. And all of a sudden they're doing that clerk's quote.
We'll defend the keep and stay around the local area.
I'm not even supposed to be here. You know.
No, she can go off and do her thing because it's just a month of game time that's just like hand waved away.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, you don't go over every day that Frodo and Sam walked to Mordor. And sometimes if you want to progress the story or say
time must happen sometime.
Time must happen. And at this point, the way you're going now, it will be 12th level and the keep will finally be built.
I don't really want to wait that long for that. The book Ultimate Rulership. The book Ultimate Rulership by Legendary Games has a really good chart for how long it will take buildings to get built. Because by the default Kingmaker rules, it takes about a full month for a keep or a cathedral to get built. The same as a wizard's tower or a general store or blacksmith's shop.
If you have the BP, someone will build it.
Yeah, and the thing is that I like Ultimate Rulership being used because it gives you a timeline of how soon things normally would be built. And,
right.
You know, granted, we've never had wizards' towers get built in the real world, but you have an idea, a time frame of when things can get started. So I have a schedule set up to where they're going to have this done, and they'll be probably 7th level when the keep finally gets built.
Leadership.
That to me is a worthy goal.
Yep.
I like the idea of leadership being given about the same time that you guys get your homestead built. I like that.
Yeah. That's what I'm aiming for.
But we were talking about this and discussing this wizard staff and off-game moments, and then the party meets this woodcutter, and he puts all the pieces together, and literally as a DM, as I'm recanting the story of how he fell in love with her and how she left him for this evil wizard who didn't really benefit her too much because she got blinded by the town cleric, and there's another RP session coming up to where the players will have to figure out can this impasse be circumnavigated. But I was having such a blast retelling this story at the table. Like, I was sitting over at my chair, and they were around the table here, and I'm trying not to cry as I'm telling them this tale of woe and all that, and trying to be a good DM, trying to get emotion into it. And I was just having a ball. And I've got to say, the Stoneheart Valley is written with a lot of good little instances to where, as a DM, you can look on the map and be, we're here. Here's where the party's home is, here's where they rest, or here's what they do. And we're going to get these things done in the next campaign, plan for these items to happen, read about that, read the other parts of the book too intermittently, but be really focused on these 3 things. When you get to the keep, plan for about a whole day to be at the keep, fighting, killing, pillaging, figuring out what to do next. But it's a really well put together module. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why in 2001 it was given an award. It was given an award by, I think, the Eenies. I'm not certain. Just look up Crucible of Freya, and you should be able to read all that. But Stoneheart Mountain Valley, this book here is a must-have. 10 out of 10. Yeah, it really is a damn good addition to your library if you're the DM. I am going to say that Slumbering Czar is where I want my campaign to go in the future, and I'm going to lay down a lot of campaign seeds for it. But it's not required because there's some things that people look at and they don't want to get involved with it. Some DMs enjoy killing characters. I've been accused of that. I don't mind being accused of that. I feel that I don't really kill the characters, the dice are telling a story. Sadly, people die every day. Mm-hmm. Either from their lack of action or from somebody's overreaction. It just happens. The real world is like that. There's been a lot of good people I know that were here last year that didn't make it to 2015. But in a fictional sense, when you play a game, D&D players look at their characters a little differently than those that have played Cthulhu or Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and Cthulhu, typically you don't look at real long-term play.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have fun between now and when they die.
Right.
God bless you. The Slumbering Tsar and Rapana Thuck, both of those books are written with the mindset that you don't really want to go in here and clear things out. Now, granted, over the course of time, you will clear those things out. You will eventually have less and less items on your wandering monster chart. But keep in mind, there shouldn't be a point in time to where your characters are kicking their feet up and going, well, we got nothing to worry about until we hit the blah portion of this book. Because they're so high level. No.
We've been there before.
There's always things that happen, and they're written to be realistic for one, in the term that if you have a vacuum of power, somebody will come and try to fill it.
If it's not troglodytes, it's trolls.
You aren't encouraged to kill your players off. You're encouraged to tell a great story. Between the covers, they give you all the tools you need. While I mentioned Legendary Games is really good, everybody should at least, if you like Gothic horror, their Gothic compendium should be in your campaign, in your stack of stuff. By that being said, I run a lot of Frog God Games materials because what time I have, I want to spend it throwing challenges at my players, and I want to have them enjoying themselves, but I want them to feel like they're doing heroic things. And other campaigns we've had, we have felt like we weren't being too, quote-unquote, heroic.
Right. And I think on our next episode, we could definitely delve deeper into Rapana Thuck and Slumbering Tsar.
I really don't want to delve into that.
Oh,
What
okay.
I want to do on the next episode we do is I want to have the iPad set up,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be facing the battle mat,
Okay.
and we will record / broadcast the campaign as it's going.
Okay.
Now, probably what'll happen is there's going to be some talk in the background, especially if Jen's around. She's going to probably talk like, "Oh, don't mind me," but
Right.
she's going to say that, and she will draw a little bit of attention to herself because that's just what.
It's and Jen's great because she's an observer, an outsider, and a new player all in one.
Yeah.
So she'll be asking all the questions that if you're just joining Pathfinder for the first time,
You'll probably appreciate her being at the table.
yeah,
Just saying.
definitely. So next time, right?
Yeah, next time.
All right. Great seeing you guys.
Thanks, Mike.
No problem.